Before we get into this one, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button because I share real stories from law enforcement that you won't hear anywhere else. Drop a like if you want more Border Patrol content. And seriously, I want to know, where are you watching from and what time is it? Comment below. Now, what I'm about to tell you happened 6 months ago, and I still can't explain it. Let's get into it. I've been a Border Patrol agent for 12 years, working the stretch between El Paso and Presidio, Texas. 240 miles of desert, mountains, and the Rio Grande. I know every mile marker, every dirt road, every hiding spot that smugglers use. I know this border like I know my own reflection, or at least I thought I did. It started on a routine night patrol. My partner Rodriguez and I were working the graveyard shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., checking the fence line and watching for illegal crossings. Standard procedure. Drive slowly, use the thermal scanner, check the sensor alerts. Most nights, nothing happens. Some nights, we catch a few people trying to cross, and some nights don't follow any rules at all. We were at mile marker 183 when Rodriguez's thermal scanner picked up something unusual. Got a heat signature, he said, adjusting the screen. About 2 miles south, just on our side of the fence. Looks like, I don't know. It's not moving right. I slowed the truck. Not moving right how? It's flickering. On and off, like it's phasing in and out. He tapped the screen. Probably just a malfunction. These scanners are old as dirt, but something made me uneasy. In 12 years, I'd learned to trust my instincts out here. The desert has its own rules, its own rhythms. When something feels wrong, it usually is. Let's check it out, I said. We drove south on the access road, following the fence line. The night was clear. Temperature dropping fast the way it does in the desert after sunset. No moon, just stars so thick they looked like clouds. Our headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating creosote bushes and scattered rocks. At mile marker 185, Rodriguez checked the scanner again. Still there. Half a mile ahead now, still flickering. The access road here runs parallel to the border, about 50 yards from the fence. It's rough terrain, all sand and rock with occasional arroyos cutting through. Not many places to hide, which makes it good for patrol but bad for anyone trying to cross undetected. We were approaching mile marker 186 when I saw it. At first, I thought it was just another mile marker. They're all the same, white rectangular posts about 4 feet high, with black numbers indicating the distance along the border. We passed dozens of them every shift, but this one was wrong. The number said 237.5. I hit the brakes so hard Rodriguez's coffee spilled. "What the hell?" he said, then looked where I was staring. "Is that mile marker 237.5, I said, quietly. "We're at 186, that marker shouldn't exist for another 50 miles. We sat there for a moment, engine idling, both of us staring at that impossible white post in our headlights. The number was clear, 237.5. Not 186, not 187, but 237.5. A marker that should be near Presidio, over 50 miles west of where we were. "GPS glitch," Rodriguez suggested, but his voice was uncertain. I checked our GPS. It showed us exactly where we should be. Between mile markers 186 and 187. But there, undeniably real in front of us, was a marker that read 237.5. "I'm going to check it out," I said, opening the door. "Wait." Rodriguez grabbed my arm. "Look at the thermal." I looked at his scanner. The heat signature we'd been tracking was directly at that mile marker, but it wasn't flickering anymore. It was solid, human-shaped, standing right next to the post. But when I looked through the windshield, there was nothing there. Just the marker and empty desert. "Your scanner's definitely malfunctioning," I said, trying to sound confident. "Then why do you look scared?" I didn't answer. Because he was right. I was scared, not of people crossing the border illegally. I'd dealt with that thousands of times. This was something else. Something that made the hair on my neck stand up and my instincts scream that we should drive away and pretend we'd never seen it. But I'm a federal agent. I don't run from weird situations. I investigate them. I stepped out of the truck, hand on my weapon, flashlight in the other hand. The desert air was cold and still. No wind, no sounds except our idling engine. As I approached the mile marker, I noticed other things that were wrong. The ground around it looked different. The sand had a weird texture, almost like it was frozen in the middle of rippling. And there were footprints leading away from the marker, heading north. Human footprints. But they didn't look quite right. The spacing was off, like whoever made them was taking steps that were too long or walking in a rhythm that didn't match human gait. "Rodriguez, you seeing this?" I called back. "Seeing what?" "The footprints." Silence, then, "There are no footprints, man." Just sand. I looked down. The prints were right there, clear as day in my flashlight beam. I could see the tread pattern of boots, could see how deep each print pressed into the sand. But Rodriguez couldn't see them. I reached the mile marker and examined it closely. It looked identical to all the others. Same white paint, same black numbers, same official government stamp at the base. Except the stamp was wrong. The year was wrong. All our current markers were installed in 2018. The stamp should read USBP 2018. This one read USBP 2031. 13 years in the future. My hand was shaking as I pulled out my phone to take a picture. But when I raised the camera, the screen went black. Not dead. The battery showed full charge. Just black, like the camera couldn't process what it was looking at. "Rodriguez, come here," I said. "I need you to see this." I heard the truck door open, heard his boots on the sand. But when I turned around, Rodriguez wasn't walking toward me. He was standing by the truck, not moving, staring at something I couldn't see. "Rodriguez?" He didn't respond, just stood there frozen. That's when I heard the voice. "You shouldn't be able to see this." I spun around, weapon drawn. A man was standing on the other side of the mile marker. But he hadn't walked up. He'd just appeared. One moment, empty desert. The next moment, a person. He was wearing a Border Patrol uniform identical to mine. Same badge, same equipment. But something about him was subtly wrong. His uniform looked too clean, too new, and his face was mine, not similar, not a doppelganger. It was literally my face, looking back at me. Same scar over the left eyebrow from a car accident when I was 16. Same slightly crooked nose. Same everything. "What the fuck?" I breathed. The other me smiled sadly. I remember this moment. I remember being you, standing here, confused and terrified. It's strange experiencing it from the other side. This isn't happening. This isn't real. It's real. More real than you understand. But you're not supposed to see mile marker 237.5 yet. You're not supposed to see me yet. This marker only appears to people who are approaching a junction point, a moment where their timeline splits. I kept my weapon trained on him, even though every instinct told me bullets wouldn't matter. Who are you? I'm you, 13 years from now. Or rather, one version of you. The version that made certain choices, took certain paths. He gestured at the mile marker. This is mile marker 237.5. It exists between mile markers 237 and 238, but only for people who are standing at a crossroads, a decision point that will fundamentally alter their future. That's insane, is it? You're seeing a mile marker 50 miles from where it should be. Your partner can't see what you're seeing. Your phone won't photograph it. You're standing in front of yourself from the future. Which part of this seems like normal reality? He had a point. I lowered my weapon slightly but didn't holster it. What decision? I asked. What crossroads? Future me looked past me, toward where Rodriguez stood, frozen by the truck. In about 5 minutes, you're going to get a call from your station. There's been a shooting at a checkpoint 15 miles east. Officers down, suspects fleeing. You and Rodriguez are the closest unit. So, we respond. That's our job. If you respond, you'll arrive at the scene in time to engage the suspects. There will be a firefight. Rodriguez will be killed. You'll kill both suspects, but you'll be injured. Spinal damage. You'll survive, but you'll never walk again. Your career ends. Your marriage ends. Within 2 years, you'll eat your service weapon in a motel room outside El Paso. The words hit me like physical blows. You're lying. Am I? Look at me, Agent Torres. Look closely. Do I look like someone who's lying? I looked, really looked, and I saw it. The sadness in his eyes, the weight of whatever he'd experienced. This wasn't a trick or a hallucination. Somehow, impossibly, I was looking at a future version of myself. A future where everything went wrong. But you said I'm at a crossroads, I said. That means there's another path. There is. If you don't respond to that call, if you radio in that you've got a medical emergency, or equipment failure, or any excuse to delay, another unit will take the call. They'll arrive 5 minutes later. Those 5 minutes change everything. Rodriguez lives. You stay whole. Your marriage survives. You have a good career. Retire with full pension. Live to see your grandchildren. And the officers at the checkpoint, the ones who are down. Future me's expression darkened. They die either way. Nothing you do tonight saves them. The only variable is whether Rodriguez dies with them. Whether you destroy yourself trying to save people who are already gone. So you're telling me to ignore a call for help. To let my fellow agents die while I make excuses. I'm telling you that sometimes the hero dies for nothing. Sometimes sacrifice doesn't save anyone. It just creates more victims. You can't save everyone, Torres. But you can save Rodriguez. You can save yourself. My radio crackled. All units, officer down at checkpoint 47. Shots fired. Suspects fleeing eastbound. All available units respond. There it was. The call. The junction point. Rodriguez was already moving, snapping out of whatever trance he'd been in. Torres! We got to go. I looked at future me. If I make the choice you want, what happens to this timeline? The one where I respond? It still exists somewhere. All timelines exist simultaneously. But your consciousness will follow the path you choose. You'll remember this moment, remember seeing me, but you'll never know what happened in the other timeline. You'll live your whole life wondering if you made the right choice. And if I respond anyway, then you'll become me. And 13 years from now, if the marker allows it, you'll stand here and try to warn your younger self. You'll try to save him from the choice that destroyed everything. And maybe he'll listen. Maybe he won't. Torres! Rodriguez was at the truck, engine revving. What are you doing? We have to move. The mile marker was starting to fade. I could see through it now, see the normal desert beyond. Future me was fading too, becoming translucent. "Choose wisely," he said, his voice growing distant. "The marker only appears once. Whatever you decide tonight becomes permanent." "Wait! Is there really no way to save everyone? No way to—" But he was gone. The marker was gone. I was standing in empty desert between mile markers 186 and 187, exactly where I should be. My phone was working again. The thermal scanner showed nothing unusual. Rodriguez was shouting, "Torres! What the hell, man? We have to go." I looked at my partner, 32 years old, father of 2, with a 3rd kid on the way. Good agent, good man. In one timeline, he had 5 minutes left to live. The radio crackled again. "All units, checkpoint 47, officer down, immediate assistance required." I had to make a choice, respond and follow the path that led to death and destruction, or delay, save Rodriguez, save myself, and live forever knowing I'd ignored a call for help. My grandmother used to say that the desert shows you who you really are, that when you strip away all the noise and complexity of civilization, when it's just you and the vast empty spaces, your true nature reveals itself. I'd always thought I knew who I was. A hero. Someone who ran toward danger, who saved people, who did the right thing no matter the cost. But standing there in that desert, with my partner waiting and my future self's words echoing in my mind, I realized I didn't know myself at all. Because the right thing was obvious. Respond to the call. Save your fellow agents. Do your duty. But the smart thing, the thing that kept people I cared about alive, was to delay, to make excuses, to let someone else be the hero. "Torres!" Rodriguez's voice was desperate now. "Come on!" I walked toward the truck. Each step felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Each step was a choice. Each step led to one timeline or another. I reached the passenger door. I looked back at where mile marker 237.5 had been. Nothing there now. Just desert and darkness and the weight of an impossible decision. My hand was on the door handle. The radio continued its urgent chatter. "All units, checkpoint 47. Multiple casualties, suspects still at large." Rodriguez was staring at me. "What were you doing out there? You looked like you were talking to someone." "Thought I saw something," I said. My eyes playing tricks. "Did you see something?" I climbed into the truck. Just shadows. "So, are we responding or what? Every second we waste—" "Radio dispatch," I interrupted. "Tell them we're responding." Rodriguez grabbed the radio. "Dispatch, Unit 47 responding to checkpoint 47. ETA 15 minutes. As he put the truck in gear and we roared off down the access road, I sat in silence watching the mile markers flash past in our headlights. 187, 188, 189, no 237.5. Maybe I'd imagined the whole thing. Heat exhaustion. Stress. A waking dream brought on by too many night shifts and not enough sleep. But I didn't believe that. I'd seen it. I'd seen him. I'd seen my future standing there in the desert warning me away from the path I was on. And I'd ignored him. Because that's what heroes do, right? They run toward danger. They save people. They do the right thing. Even when the right thing kills them. Even when the right thing kills everyone they love. The desert stretched endlessly ahead of us. Dark and indifferent. Mile markers flashed past like countdown timers. Each one bringing us closer to checkpoint 47. Closer to the shootout. Closer to the moment where everything changed. Rodriguez was driving fast, focused on the road. He didn't see my hands shaking. Didn't see me checking my weapon over and over, making sure everything was ready. Didn't see me wondering if this was the last time I'd sit in this truck as a whole person. as someone who could walk, who had a future, who had choices. We were 20 miles out when I saw it in my side mirror, a figure standing by the side of the road, just a silhouette in the darkness, barely visible in our taillights. A figure in a border patrol uniform, watching us drive away. I didn't say anything to Rodriguez. What could I say? That I'd seen a ghost? That I'd met myself from a future that might or might not happen? That we were driving toward our own destruction because I was too proud, or too stupid, or too committed to being a hero to make the smart choice? Instead, I sat in silence and watched the mile markers count up. 195, 196, 197, getting closer. "Hey," Rodriguez said suddenly. "You remember that story Agent Martinez used to tell? About the Devil's Mile?" "No." "Yeah, he said there's a stretch of the border where weird stuff happens. Mile markers appear where they shouldn't. People see things that aren't there. Compasses go haywire. He said his grandfather worked border patrol in the 50s, told him the land remembers things, all the people who died trying to cross, all the violence and desperation. He said it soaks into the ground like blood, and sometimes it bubbles back up. That's a campfire story, Rodriguez. Old agents trying to scare the rookies. Maybe. But Martinez was serious about it. Said his grandfather refused to patrol certain stretches after dark. Said there are thin places where our world and another world overlap, where you can see things that haven't happened yet, or things that happened in a different timeline. He glanced at me. You think there's any truth to it? I thought about mile marker 237.5, about my future self standing there in the darkness, trying to save me from a choice that led to disaster. "I don't know," I said quietly. "Maybe." We drove in silence for a while. I kept checking the mirror, but the figure was gone. Or maybe it had never been there at all. Maybe I was already losing my grip on reality. Maybe that's what happened when you ignored a warning from your own future. At mile marker 203, we passed a stranded vehicle. Old pickup truck, Arizona plates, hood up. 2 people standing beside it, a man and a woman, both waving for help. "Should we stop?" Rodriguez asked. Standard procedure was to check on stranded motorists, but every second counted if we were responding to an officer down call. "Keep going," I said. "Radio it in. Let the next unit handle it." Rodriguez nodded and grabbed the radio. "Dispatch, Unit 47. Stranded vehicle at mile marker 203, 2 occupants, appears non-emergency." "Copy that, Unit 47. We'll send someone when available. Continue to checkpoint 47. As we drove past, the man by the truck watched us go, and something about his expression, sad, knowing, resigned, made my stomach drop, because he looked exactly like Rodriguez. "Did you see?" I started. "See what?" "Nothing. Keep driving," but I'd seen it. Just like I'd seen mile marker 237.5. Just like I'd seen my future self. The desert was showing me things. Showing me the price of my choice. We were 10 miles out when my phone buzzed. Text message from my wife. "Stay safe tonight." "I love you." Simple, normal. The kind of message she sent on every night shift. But my hands were shaking as I read it. Because I knew, somehow I knew, that in one timeline, I would never answer that text. In one timeline, my wife would spend the rest of her life wondering if I'd seen her final message before I died. "You okay, man?" Rodriguez asked. "You've been weird since we left that mile marker." "I'm fine. Because if something's wrong, if you're not feeling right, we can—" I said I'm fine. The words came out harder than I intended. "Just focus on driving." Rodriguez didn't respond, but I could feel him watching me from the corner of his eye. Worried, concerned. Good. He should be concerned. We both should be. Because we were 5 miles out now, and every instinct I'd developed in 12 years of this job was screaming that we shouldn't respond to this call, that we should turn around, that we should claim equipment failure or medical emergency or any excuse at all. But I couldn't, because I was Agent Carlos Torres, and I didn't run from danger. I ran toward it, even when it killed me. Mile marker 208. 4 miles to go. The radio crackled. All units, checkpoint 47. Third officer confirmed down. Suspects have taken a hostage. Repeating, suspects have a hostage. Approach with extreme caution. Jesus, Rodriguez muttered. I checked my weapon again, made sure my vest was secure, started running through tactical scenarios in my mind. Multiple suspects. Hostage situation. Officers already down. This was bad. This was as bad as it gets. My phone buzzed again. Another text from my wife. Forgot to tell you, felt the baby kick today. Strong kicks. Doctor says everything looks perfect. The baby, our second child, due in 4 months. In one timeline, that baby grew up without a father. In another timeline, the baby had a father in a wheelchair who spent every day wishing he'd made a different choice. Torres. Rodriguez's voice was quiet, serious. I don't have a good feeling about this call. Me neither. So what do we do? Good question. What do we do when we know, somehow, impossibly know, that responding will destroy us? When we've seen our own future warning us away? Do we listen to the impossible? Or do we follow our training, our duty, our oath to protect and serve? Mile marker 210. 2 miles to go. We do our job, I said finally. We respond. We help our fellow agents. We save the hostage if we can. And if we can't, then we die trying. Rodriguez nodded slowly. Okay, but Torres, if something happens to me tonight, tell Maria I loved her. Tell my kids their dad was trying to do the right thing. Nothing's going to happen. But if it does, nothing's going to happen, I shouted. We're going to respond, we're going to save everyone, and we're going to go home to our families. That's how this ends. That's the only way this ends. But I didn't believe it. Not really. Because I'd seen the other ending. I'd stood at mile marker 237.5 and looked at what happened when we responded to this call. Mile marker 211. 1 mile to go. I could see lights ahead now. Red and blue, flashing in the darkness. Multiple vehicles. The checkpoint was a war zone. Rodriguez slowed the truck. Last chance to turn around. We're not turning around. Torres, I'm serious. Something about this feels wrong. Really wrong. Maybe we should... The radio exploded with noise. Shots fired. Shots fired at checkpoint 47. All units, suspects are engaging. Multiple casualties. Rodriguez floored it. The truck surged forward, eating up the last mile. I could see the scene now. 3 patrol vehicles, 2 overturned, 1 on fire. Bodies on the ground. Muzzle flashes in the darkness. We were 50 yards out when I saw him again, my future self. Standing by mile marker 212, watching us approach. He was shaking his head slowly, sadly. And beside him was another figure. Rodriguez's future self. The one from the stranded truck. They were both there, both watching, both knowing what was about to happen. Both helpless to stop it. Do you see them? I asked Rodriguez. See who? Nothing. Forget it, we were 20 yards out. I could see the suspects now. 3 men with automatic weapons, using a civilian vehicle as cover. The hostage was a woman, hands zip-tied, being used as a human shield. "On my mark, we provide covering fire," Rodriguez said, falling into tactical mode. "I'll go right, you go left." The bullet came through the windshield before he could finish. The bullet entered through the windshield at a 45-degree angle, passed between Rodriguez and me with maybe 2 inches of clearance on either side, and exited through the rear window. We should have been dead. Time seemed to slow. I watched the bullet's path, actually saw it moving through the air, a dark streak against the dashboard lights. Saw the spiderweb crack spread across the windshield. Saw Rodriguez's eyes go wide. And then time snapped back to normal speed. "Drive!" I screamed. Rodriguez jerked the wheel, throwing us into a hard right turn. More bullets hammered the truck. I counted 7 impacts in 3 seconds. 1 took out the driver's side mirror, 1 punctured the hood. The rest hit armor plating. We skidded to a stop behind an overturned patrol vehicle. I could hear screaming, not from pain, but from fear. Someone shouting in Spanish, a woman crying. What the hell was that? Rodriguez gasped. His hands were shaking on the wheel. That bullet should have hit one of us. Should have hit both of us. Lucky, I said. But I didn't believe it. That wasn't luck, that was something else. We bailed out of the truck, weapons drawn. The scene was chaos. 3 patrol vehicles in various states of destruction, at least 4 agents down, 3 suspects with automatic weapons using a white van as cover, and between them, the hostage. She was maybe 20 years old, hands bound, on her knees in the kill zone. One of the suspects had a gun to her head. "Federal agents," Rodriguez shouted. "Put down your weapons." They answered with gunfire. We ducked behind the overturned vehicle as rounds tore through the air above us. "We need backup," I said, grabbing the radio. "Dispatch, Unit 47 on scene at Checkpoint 47. Multiple officers down, heavy fire, request immediate." The radio went dead in my hand. Not just quiet, dead. No static, no hum, nothing. Like it had never been a real radio at all. "Rodriguez, your radio working." He tried his. Same result. Dead air. "What's going on?" His voice was tight with fear. Radios don't just die. Both of them at once. I looked around the scene more carefully. Something was wrong beyond the obvious violence. The smoke from the burning vehicle was moving strangely, not rising straight up, but curling in impossible spirals. The blood on the ground was the wrong color, too bright, almost luminescent. And the stars were in different positions than they should be. I'd navigated by those stars for 12 years. I knew their patterns, but now they were wrong, shifted, like we were looking at the sky from a different latitude or a different timeline. "We're not where we think we are," I said quietly. "What?" "This isn't Checkpoint 47. Or that it is, but it's not our Checkpoint 47. Rodriguez stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "Torres, what are you talking about? We drove here. We watched the mile markers count up. Did we? Or did we pass mile marker 237.5 without noticing? Did we cross over into whatever timeline that marker connects to?" Before Rodriguez could respond, one of the suspects shouted, "Agents, we know you can hear us. We have a hostage. Stand down or she dies." The voice was familiar. Impossibly familiar. I peered around the edge of the overturned vehicle. The suspect with the gun to the hostage's head was facing away from me, but I could see his profile in the firelight. It was me. Not future me. Not an older version. It was me from right now. Same age, same face, same uniform, but something in his expression was different. Harder. Colder. Like he'd made different choices that had led to this moment. "Torres?" Rodriguez whispered. "Why does that guy look exactly like you?" Because he is me. Another version of me. From another timeline. That's insane. Is it? We just saw a mile marker that shouldn't exist. My future self warned me not to come here. And now we're at a checkpoint where one of the suspects is literally my doppelganger. Which part of that sounds like normal reality? Rodriguez didn't have an answer for that. The other me shouted again, "Agent Torres! I know you're there. I know because I remember being you, hiding behind that vehicle, trying to figure out what's happening." I stepped out from cover, weapon raised. "Let the hostage go." Other me laughed. It was my laugh, but twisted, wrong. "You don't get it yet. She's not a hostage. She's the reason we're all here. The reason this timeline exists at all." I looked at the woman more carefully. She was young, terrified, with long, dark hair and a familiar face. Too familiar. "That's..." Rodriguez breathed. "Is that your daughter?" Sophia? He was right. The hostage looked exactly like my daughter would look in about 15 years. Same eyes, same bone structure, same way of holding herself even in fear. "Your daughter doesn't exist yet," Other me said. "She won't be born for another 8 months. But in this timeline, the one where you made the wrong choice, she grows up damaged, broken, angry at a father who died trying to be a hero, angry at a system that took him away, so angry that she does something unforgivable." "What did she do?" I asked, though I didn't want to know the answer. "She became the thing you spent your life fighting against. She helped smuggle weapons across the border. She killed 3 agents in the process, and when she was finally cornered at this checkpoint, she took a hostage. A young girl who reminded her of the childhood she lost when you died." I stared at the woman on her knees. My future daughter. A murderer created by the choice I'd made to respond to this call. "This isn't real," I said. "This is some kind of hallucination." "Heat stroke or it's real," Other me interrupted. "As real as mile marker 237.5. As real as the choice you made when I warned you. You chose to be the hero, Torres. This is what heroes create. Pain. Damage. Consequences that ripple forward through time. Let her go," I repeated. "Whatever point you're trying to make, she doesn't have to die to make it. She's already dead. We all are. This timeline ended the moment you ignored my warning. We're just playing out the last few minutes before it collapses completely." He raised his weapon. I fired first. 3 rounds, center mass, exactly like training. Other me went down. The 2 suspects with him returned fire, not at me, but at Rodriguez. I heard him grunt, saw him fall. "Rodriguez!" I ran to him, keeping low. Bullets chewed up the ground around me. One grazed my arm. Another took my hat clean off. Rodriguez was hit in the shoulder. Bad, but not fatal if we got him help quickly. "I'm okay," he gasped. "I'm okay. Get the hostage." I looked toward the van. The woman, my future daughter, was on the ground where Other me had been holding her. She was screaming, but not in English. In some language I didn't recognize, and as I watched, she started to fade, becoming translucent, like she was being erased. "Time's up," a voice said beside me. I spun around. My future self was standing there. Not the suspect version. The original one from mile marker 237.5. Looking sad and tired and impossibly old. "What's happening?" I demanded. "The timeline is collapsing. This version of reality, the one where you responded to the call, can't sustain itself anymore. It's contradicting too many other timelines, creating too many paradoxes. In about 30 seconds, it will cease to exist entirely. And then what? Then you'll be back at mile marker 237.5, back at the choice. like this never happened. Rodriguez is hit. He needs medical. Rodriguez is fine. Or rather, he will be fine. This wound never happened because this timeline never happened. When reality resets, he'll be standing by our truck, wondering why you're talking to empty air. The world around us was starting to fade. The burning vehicle, the bodies, the suspects, all of it becoming transparent, like a photograph left in the sun too long. Why show me this, I asked. Why make me live through it if you're just going to erase it? Because you needed to see what your choice creates. You needed to understand that being a hero isn't always the right answer. Sometimes the right answer is to walk away, to let others handle it, to save the people you can save instead of dying to save people who are already lost. Everything was going white now. Not bright, just empty. Like reality was being bleached away. But I won't remember this, I said. When I go back, I won't remember any of it. You'll remember enough. The feeling, the knowledge that responding to that call leads to disaster. That's all you need. The rest is up to you. The white was everywhere now. Rodriguez was gone. The checkpoint was gone. Everything was gone except me and my future self, standing in an endless white void. Make the right choice this time, future me said. Save Rodriguez. Save yourself. Save your family. And the agents at the checkpoint? The hostage? Already dead, in every timeline. There's no version of tonight where you save them. The only variables are whether Rodriguez dies with them, and whether you destroy yourself trying to save people beyond saving. How do I know you're telling the truth? How do I know this isn't some trick to make me abandon my duty? Future me smiled sadly. You don't. That's the problem with time and choice. You never really know if you're doing the right thing. You just make your best guess and live with the consequences. The white was starting to fade now, resolving into shapes. A desert, a road, a truck with headlights. Wait, I said. If I make the other choice, if I don't respond, what happens to this version of me? The one who experienced this. This version of you never existed. You're not creating a new timeline. You're choosing which existing timeline to join. The one where you respond and everyone dies, or the one where you delay and everyone lives. But I'll remember this conversation. I'll remember seeing Rodriguez get shot. Maybe. Or maybe it'll just be a dream. A nightmare you had once. The human mind is good at rationalizing the impossible. It'll find a way to make this make sense. We were almost back now. I could see the truck. See Rodriguez standing by it, waiting. See mile marker 237.5 beginning to materialize in the darkness. One more question, I said quickly. If I make the right choice, if I delay and save Rodriguez, do I ever see you again? Do I ever become you? No. You become a different version of me. One who made the smart choice instead of the hero choice. One who lives with the guilt of not responding, but doesn't live with the grief of losing everything. It's not a perfect life, but it's a life. The white was gone completely now. I was back in the desert, standing by mile marker 237.5, weapon in hand. Rodriguez was calling from the truck. Torres, what are you doing? We have to move. I looked at future me one last time. He nodded once. Then faded like he'd never been there at all. The mile marker was starting to fade too. My last chance to remember. My last chance to know for certain that this was real and not just a stress-induced hallucination. I pulled out my phone. This time, the camera worked. I took 3 quick photos of the marker before it disappeared completely. Then I ran to the truck. Everything okay? Rodriguez asked as I climbed in. Yeah, just thought I saw something. We need to go. Checkpoint 47 is... Wait. I grabbed his arm. Let me make a call first. Torres, there's no time. Officers are down. Just give me 1 minute. I called the station. This is Agent Torres, Unit 47. We're experiencing engine trouble, transmission slipping. We're going to need a few minutes to assess. Unit 47, we have an officer down situation. Can your vehicle make it to checkpoint 47? I looked at Rodriguez. He was staring at me with confusion and something that might have been suspicion. Negative, I said into the phone. We're showing multiple warning lights. If we push it, we might not make it at all. Recommend sending Unit 23. They're 10 minutes further out, but they'll have a working vehicle. Silence on the radio. Then, copy that, Unit 47. Stand by for further instructions. Rodriguez was still staring. What the hell, man? You just lied to dispatch. Our truck is fine. I know. So, why? Because we're not going to checkpoint 47. We're not responding to that call. Have you lost your mind? There are agents down. There's a hostage. We're the closest unit. We're not going, I repeated. Calmer this time. Final. Rodriguez looked like he wanted to argue. Then something in my expression must have convinced him I was serious. He sat back, confusion and anger warring on his face. You better have a damn good reason for this. I do. But you wouldn't believe me if I told you. We sat in silence, listening to the radio chatter. Unit 23 took the call. They were 15 minutes out. Every second felt like an hour. At 11:47 p.m., we heard the gunfire over the radio. Distant pops that turned into sustained fire. Someone screaming. Then static. At 11:52 p.m., silence. At 11:58 p.m., the official report. Checkpoint 47. Multiple casualties. 3 agents confirmed dead. 2 suspects killed, 1 escaped, hostage deceased. Rodriguez's hands were shaking. We could have been there. We could have helped. We couldn't have helped. They were already dead before we even got the call. All we would have done is added our names to the casualty list. You don't know that. I do know that. I can't explain how, but I know. He turned to look at me. Really look at me. What happened back there? At that mile marker? What did you see? I pulled out my phone and opened the photos I'd taken. 3 clear pictures of mile marker, 237.5. The one that shouldn't exist. The one with the impossible date stamp. Rodriguez stared at the screen. How is that possible? We're at mile marker 186. That marker shouldn't be here for another 50 miles. It's not about distance. It's about choice. That marker appears at decision points. Moments where your future splits based on what you decide to do next. And you decided not to respond to the call. I decided to save your life, and mine, by letting other agents die. They were already dead. Nothing we did was going to change that. Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment. Then, how can you be so sure? I thought about telling him, about future me, about the timeline where we responded and he died and I ended up in a wheelchair, about seeing his future self standing by a stranded truck, knowing what was about to happen. But I couldn't. It sounded insane even to me, and I'd lived through it. I just am, I said finally. Trust me. Trust you? You just let 3 agents die while we sat here with our thumbs up our asses, and you want me to trust you? Yes. He stared at me for another long moment. Then he put the truck in gear. We're going back to the station. You're going to explain this to the supervisor, and if your explanation isn't damn good, I'm writing you up for dereliction of duty. We drove back in silence. I kept checking my phone, looking at those photos of mile marker 237.5. Proof that it had been real. Proof that I'd seen the impossible and made a choice based on information I shouldn't have had. At mile marker 197, I saw him again. Future me. Standing by the side of the road, watching us pass. He gave me a small nod. Approval, relief, I couldn't tell. Rodriguez didn't see him. Nobody could see him except me. We passed mile marker 203. The stranded truck was gone. Rodriguez's future self was gone. Because that timeline had collapsed. That version of events had been erased. We'd chosen a different path. At mile marker 208, my phone buzzed. Text from my wife. Stay safe tonight. I love you. This time, I answered immediately. Love you too. Coming home safe. Promise. Rodriguez glanced at me. Your wife? Yeah. You're lucky, you know. Maria would kill me if I pulled what you just pulled. Ignoring a call for help because of some feeling or premonition or whatever. It wasn't a feeling. It was knowledge. Knowledge from where? From your magic mile marker? From ghosts in the desert? From a version of me who lived through tonight and came back to warn me. From a timeline where we responded and everyone died. From impossible information that saved your life whether you believe it or not. Rodriguez pulled over. We were at mile marker 215 now. He killed the engine and turned to face me. You're serious? You actually believe you saw the future. I don't believe it, I know it. That's not how reality works, Torres. Reality works exactly like that. You just don't see it because you're not looking at the right places. Between the mile markers, between the moments. That's where the real choices happen. That's where futures split and timelines branch and impossible things become possible. He shook his head. You sound crazy. You know that, right? You sound absolutely insane. Maybe I am. But you're alive. And in the other timeline, the one where we responded, you were dead. So if I'm crazy, at least I'm usefully crazy. Rodriguez was silent for a long time. Finally, show me the photos again. I handed him my phone. He zoomed in on the mile marker, examining every detail. The number 237.5. The date stamp from 2031. The impossible placement 50 miles from where it should be. This is real, he said quietly. This photo, this marker. It's really there, yes. So what does that mean? If mile markers can appear where they shouldn't, if you can see your future self, if timelines can split, what does that mean for everything else? How do we know what's real anymore? Good question. How do you know what's real when you've seen the impossible? When you've stood at a crossroads between timelines and chosen one future over another? I don't think we ever really knew, I said. I think we just pretended we did. The desert's been trying to show us the truth for years. Martinez's stories, the Devil's Mile, all of it. We just weren't ready to see it. And now we are? Now we don't have a choice. Rodriguez handed back my phone. Started the truck. We're not telling anyone about this. About the mile marker. About your future self. None of it. They'll want to know why we didn't respond. Engine trouble. Transmission slip. Exactly what you told dispatch. We stick to that story. Because if we tell them the truth, they'll think we're crazy. They'll pull us from field duty. They'll do exactly what they should do to agents who are seeing things that shouldn't exist. Right, so we lie. We say the truck had problems. We couldn't make it in time. We feel terrible about it, but it wasn't our fault. It was a good plan, a smart plan. The kind of plan that kept your career intact and your sanity unquestioned. But it was also a lie. And I'd spent 12 years in this job trying to be honest, trying to be the good guy. What if someone died because we delayed? I asked. What if our lie caused everyone was already dead? You said so yourself. We couldn't have saved them. I know what I said. But what if I'm wrong? What if I saw some stress-induced hallucination and we abandoned our fellow agents based on my breakdown? Rodriguez looked at me hard. Do you think you're wrong? I thought about it, really thought about it. About future me warning me. About seeing Rodriguez's future self. About living through that collapsed timeline where we responded and everything went wrong. No, I said finally, I'm not wrong. I can't explain how I know, but I know. We made the right choice. Then we stick to the lie. And we hope to God you're right. We drove the rest of the way back to the station in silence. The night was ending. Dawn was coming. In a few hours, we'd have to face questions, investigations, the scrutiny that comes when agents fail to respond to a call for help. But we were alive. Rodriguez was whole. My daughter would grow up with a father who could walk, who could hold her, who could be there for all the moments that mattered. That had to count for something. At mile marker 237, we passed the spot where mile marker 237.5 would eventually exist. If you were standing at the right decision point, if the timeline allowed you to see it. It wasn't there now, just empty desert and darkness and the promise of dawn. But I knew it would be back. For someone, someday, because the desert remembers. The desert shows you who you really are. And the desert always offers you a choice, even if that choice seems impossible. We just had to live with the one we made. The investigation lasted 3 weeks. They questioned us separately, together, and then separately again. Why didn't we respond immediately? Why did we report engine trouble when the truck was fine? Had we been drinking, using drugs, experiencing some kind of mental health crisis? Rodriguez stuck to the story. Transmission slipping. Warning lights. We made the call we thought was safest. Better to delay a few minutes than break down completely before reaching the scene. I stuck to it too, even though every time I closed my eyes, I saw mile marker 237.5. Saw my future self warning me. Saw the collapsed timeline where Rodriguez died. The internal affairs investigator was a man named Walker. 20-year veteran, sharp eyes, the kind of guy who could smell a lie from a mile away. "Agent Torres," he said during our 5th interview. "I've reviewed your record. 12 years, exemplary service, multiple commendations. You've never hesitated to respond to a call before. Never had equipment failures at convenient times. So why now? Why this call?" I thought about telling him the truth, about showing him the photos on my phone, about explaining that I'd seen the future and made a choice based on information that shouldn't exist. But Rodriguez was right. They'd think I was crazy. Pull me from field duty. Maybe force a psych eval. So I stuck to the lie. The truck had problems. I made a judgment call. I got it wrong. 3 agents died while we were checking our transmission. That's something I'll have to live with for the rest of my life. Walker studied me for a long moment. "You don't look like someone who got it wrong. You look like someone who knows exactly what they did and why they did it." I reported what I saw. Warning lights, transmission slip. And yet, when the mechanics examined your vehicle the next day, they found nothing wrong. Not a single problem. Almost like those warning lights never existed. My heart was pounding, but I kept my expression neutral. Equipment failure. Sometimes it happens and then fixes itself. Or, Walker leaned forward, sometimes agents lie to avoid responding to dangerous situations. Sometimes they put their own safety above their duty. That's not what happened. Then what did happen, Agent Torres? Because I've been doing this job for 20 years, and I've never seen a case quite like this one. Two experienced agents, both reporting the exact same equipment failure at the exact same time, and yet mechanics find nothing wrong. Either you are both lying, or something very strange happened that night. I met his eyes. Something very strange happened that night. So, tell me, I can't. Can't or won't. Both. Walker sat back. You know what I think? I think you saw something that night. Something that made you believe responding to that call would get you killed. And you made a choice to save yourself and your partner instead of following orders. Now, I can't prove that. I can't prove anything. But I know it in my gut. He was right. Completely right. But I couldn't admit it. Are we done here? I asked. Almost? One more question. That night, you stopped at mile marker 186. Dispatch shows you were stationary there for approximately 3 minutes before the call came in. What were you doing? Routine inspection. Of what? The fence line. And did you find anything unusual? I thought about lying again, but something in Walker's expression made me pause. Like he already knew the answer. Like he was testing me. I found a mile marker, I said slowly. One that shouldn't have been there. Walker's expression didn't change. What number? 237.5. Silence. Walker pulled out a folder and opened it. Inside were photographs, dozens of them, all showing different mile markers in different locations, all showing markers that didn't belong where they were. Mile marker 237.5 has been reported 17 times in the last 40 years, Walker said quietly. Always at mile marker 186. Always during night shifts. Always by agents who are about to face a life or death decision. I stared at the photos. Different agents, different years, but the same impossible marker. You knew, I said. You knew what I saw. I didn't know. I suspected, because I saw it too. 30 years ago, when I was a field agent. Mile marker 237.5 appeared to me at mile marker 149. And standing next to it was an older version of myself, warning me not to pursue a suspect into an ambush. I ignored the warning, lost my partner, took a bullet that ended my field career. He closed the folder. So, when I heard about 2 agents reporting equipment failure right at mile marker 186, I pulled the old reports, and I found a pattern. Every agent who sees mile marker 237.5 faces the same choice. Follow their duty and die, or save themselves and live with the guilt. You're saying this is real. You're saying I actually saw the future. I'm saying the border has thin places, places where time doesn't work the way it should, where you can see things that haven't happened yet. The old agents knew about it. They called it the Devil's Mile, said it was the desert's way of testing you, showing you who you really are. And who am I? Walker smiled sadly. Someone who chose to live. That's not a bad thing, Torres. Despite what the regulations say, despite what your training tells you, sometimes choosing to live is the right answer. 3 agents died. They were already dead. You saw the future. You knew responding wouldn't save them. All it would have done is add you and Rodriguez to the body count. How can you be sure? Because I've studied every case. Every agent who saw mile marker 237.5, every choice they made. the ones who followed their duty. They all died or were permanently disabled. The ones who chose to live. They all feel guilty, but they're alive. Their families are intact. Their partners survive. And the people they thought they could save, those people died anyway, every single time. He stood up, gathering his files. You're going to be cleared. The investigation will conclude that you made a reasonable judgment call based on equipment concerns. You'll keep your job, keep your career, but you'll never forget what you saw. You'll spend the rest of your life wondering if you made the right choice. And did I? Walker paused at the door. You're alive. Rodriguez is alive. Your daughter will grow up with a father. That sounds like the right choice to me, even if the regulations disagree. He left me alone in the interview room. I sat there for a long time, thinking about choices and consequences, about the impossible mile marker and the future self who'd warned me, about all the other agents who'd faced the same test and made different decisions. 3 weeks later, Rodriguez and I were cleared and returned to duty. We requested a transfer to a different sector. Neither of us wanted to patrol that stretch of border again. Too many ghosts. Too many what-ifs. My wife gave birth to our daughter 6 months later. We named her Sophia. She was perfect, healthy, whole. And every time I looked at her, I thought about the other timeline. The one where she grew up angry and damaged, where she became the thing I'd spent my life fighting against, where my choice to be a hero destroyed her future. I'd saved her by not being a hero, by being selfish, by choosing my own life and my partner's life over duty and honor and all the things they teach you in training. That should have been the end of it. I should have moved on, lived my life, forgotten about mile marker 237.5, but I couldn't forget. Because 6 months after Sophia was born, I started having dreams. Dreams about the marker. Dreams about other agents seeing it, standing at their own crossroads, making their own impossible choices. And sometimes in those dreams, I was there, standing beside the marker, watching, waiting to offer warnings to agents who might listen. 1 year after my encounter with mile marker 237.5, I was working a day shift in the new sector when I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Agent Torres? The voice was unfamiliar. My name is Agent Chen. I work the sector between Nogales and Sasabe. I need to talk to you about something I saw last night. Something impossible. My heart started pounding. What did you see? A mile marker that shouldn't exist. Mile marker 237.5. And standing next to it was, well, it sounds crazy, but it looked like an older version of myself. He warned me not to respond to a call. Said if I did, I'd lose everything. And did you? Respond? Silence, then no. I delayed, made excuses. Let another unit take the call. 2 agents died. I could have been there, could have helped. You couldn't have helped. They were already dead. How do you know? Because I saw the same thing. Made the same choice. And everyone who's ever seen mile marker 237.5 faces the same test. We all think we can be heroes. We all think we can save everyone. But the marker shows us the truth. Sometimes you can't save everyone. Sometimes you can only save yourself. Another pause. Walker told me to call you. Said you'd understand. Said you could help me deal with the guilt. Walker's wrong. I can't help with the guilt. Nobody can. You'll carry it forever, wondering if you made the right choice. But at least you'll be alive to wonder. Your family will be intact. Your partner will survive. That's supposed to make me feel better. No, nothing makes you feel better. but it keeps you alive long enough to realize that survival is its own kind of victory. We talked for another hour. I told Agent Chen everything: the collapsed timeline, the future self, the investigation, Walker's revelation about other agents. By the end, he sounded less alone, less like he was going crazy. "Do you ever see it again?" he asked. "The marker?" "Not in person, but in dreams. And sometimes when I'm patrolling at night, I'll see someone standing by mile marker 186, an agent in uniform watching the road. And I'll know that somewhere, somewhen, another timeline is branching. Another agent is making another impossible choice. And do you try to warn them? I don't think I can. I think the warning has to come from their own future self, from the version of them that lived through the wrong choice. That's how the marker works. It shows you your own future, not someone else's. So we're all alone with it. All stuck with our choices. Yeah, we're all alone with it. After that call, I started keeping a list. Every agent who contacted me about seeing mile marker 237.5. Every person who'd stood at that crossroads between duty and survival. In 2 years, I documented 43 cases, 43 agents who saw the impossible marker and had to choose between being a hero and staying alive. 31 chose survival. They're all still alive. All carrying guilt, but alive. 12 chose duty. They're all dead. The statistics don't lie. The marker appears to show you a truth you don't want to see. That sometimes heroism is just suicide with better PR. That sometimes the smartest choice is to walk away. But knowing that doesn't make it easier. 3 years after my encounter, I was promoted to supervisor. I now train new agents, teach them about Border Patrol procedures, about safety protocols, about when to engage and when to call for backup. And late at night, when the training is done and the new agents have gone home, I drive out to mile marker 186. I park there and wait. Sometimes I see it. Mile marker 237.5, flickering in and out of existence. And sometimes I see agents standing beside it, talking to their future selves, making impossible choices. I never interfere. I never try to influence their decisions. Because Walker was right. Everyone has to make their own choice. Everyone has to decide who they really are when the desert strips away all the pretense and shows them the truth. But I witness. I remember, I document. Because someone needs to. Someone needs to keep track of all the timelines that branch from that impossible marker. All the futures that split based on choices made in a single moment. My daughter Sophia is 3 years old now. She's smart, curious, fearless. She has her mother's smile and my stubbornness, and she has no idea that in another timeline she grew up to be someone I couldn't recognize, someone my heroism created. Sometimes I wonder if she'll see the marker someday, if she'll join Border Patrol like her father, and one night she'll find herself standing at mile marker 186, staring at mile marker 237.5, facing her own impossible choice. I hope not. I hope she lives a normal life, never sees the thin places where time breaks down, never has to choose between duty and survival. But I suspect she will, because once you're touched by the desert's impossible places, it seems to run in the family. Walker's children saw things. Agent Chen's brother reported seeing a mile marker that didn't exist. The desert remembers, and what it remembers, it passes down. Last week, Rodriguez called me. We don't talk much anymore. The guilt of that night created a distance between us that we've never quite bridged. I've been having dreams, he said without preamble. Dreams about mile marker 237.5. About that night. But in the dreams, there's something new. Someone else standing by the marker. Someone who looks like my son. How old is your son now? 22, just graduated police academy. Starts with border patrol next month. My blood ran cold. Tell him not to take the job. What? Tell him to do something else, anything else. Because if he works the border, eventually he'll see the marker. And then he'll have to make the same choice we did. And that's not a choice any parent wants their child to face. Rodriguez was quiet for a long time. We can't protect them forever. Can't keep them from the thin places. The desert shows everyone who they really are eventually. Then at least warn him. Tell him about what we saw. Give him the choice to walk away before it's too late. And if he doesn't believe me, if he thinks I'm crazy, then he'll learn the hard way. Like we did. Like every agent who's ever seen that marker. We hung up. I sat in my office, looking at the list of 43 names. 43 agents who'd faced the impossible choice. Some lived, some died, all changed, and now Rodriguez's son would join the list. And someday, maybe Sophia would too. Because that's the truth the desert shows you. The choices you make don't just affect you. They ripple forward through time, touching everyone connected to you. Creating futures and destroying them. Building timelines and collapsing them. Mile marker. 237.5 doesn't just test you. It tests everyone you love. Everyone who comes after you. Everyone who carries the weight of your choices into their own futures. Tonight, I'll drive out to mile marker 186 again. I'll wait and watch. Maybe I'll see Rodriguez's son. Maybe I'll see another agent facing their moment of truth. And I'll remember what Walker told me 3 years ago. Sometimes choosing to live is the right answer. But I'll also remember the 3 agents who died while I checked a transmission that wasn't broken. The hostage who died while I made excuses. The timeline where I responded and everyone died anyway. I made the right choice. I know I did, but knowing it doesn't make it easier. Because every night when I close my eyes, I'm back at mile marker 237.5. Standing between timelines, watching my future self fade away. Making the choice that saved my life and destroyed my peace of mind. And every night I wonder, if I could go back, knowing what I know now, would I make the same choice? The answer should be easy. Of course I would. I'm alive. My family is intact. Rodriguez survived. Sophia will grow up with a father. But the answer isn't easy. Because 3 agents died while I prioritized my own survival. Because somewhere in the collapsed timeline, there's a version of me who tried to be a hero and failed. And somewhere in another timeline, there's a version of me who found a way to save everyone. The desert shows you who you really are. And who I really am is someone who chose to live when others died. That's the truth mile marker 237.5 revealed. Not that I'm a coward, not that I'm selfish. Just that when faced with an impossible choice, I chose the possible outcome over the probable failure. I chose survival over sacrifice. I chose life over heroism. And I'll spend the rest of my life wondering if that was the right choice. But at least I'll be alive to wonder. That has to count for something. If you're a Border Patrol agent reading this or any law enforcement officer working the southwest border, listen carefully. If you ever see mile marker 237.5, if you ever encounter a marker that shouldn't exist, if you ever meet a version of yourself warning you away from a call, consider the warning carefully. Don't let pride or duty or the need to be a hero override your instincts. Sometimes the right choice is to walk away. Sometimes survival is its own kind of victory. The desert will test you. It will show you who you really are. And when it does, you'll have to make a choice that will define the rest of your life. choose wisely. Choose based on information, not emotion. And remember, the people you think you can save might already be beyond saving. The only question is whether you'll join them. I made my choice 3 years ago at mile marker 237.5. I chose to live, and I'm still living with that choice, every single day. Last night, I drove out to mile marker 186 one more time. It was 3 years to the day since I first saw mile marker 237.5. 3 years since I made the choice that saved my life and haunted my dreams. I parked the truck and waited. At exactly 11:47 p.m., the same time the marker had appeared 3 years ago, I saw it. Mile marker 237.5, materializing in the darkness like a ghost. And standing beside it, watching me, was an older version of myself, not the one who'd warned me 3 years ago. This one was even older, grayer, more worn. I got out of the truck and walked toward him. "You came back?" he said. His voice was tired but not surprised. I wanted to see if it was still real. If I'd really experienced what I remember experiencing. It was real. It is real. The marker never stops being real, Torres. You just stop seeing it once you've made your choice. Then why can I see it now? Future me smiled sadly. Because you're standing at another crossroads, another decision point. And this time the choice isn't about responding to a call. It's about what you do with the knowledge the marker gave you. What do you mean? You've been documenting cases, keeping track of agents who see the marker, building evidence that the impossible exists. Soon, you're going to have enough data to go public, to tell the world about mile marker 237.5 and what it reveals about time and choice and the thin places where reality breaks down. I hadn't realized I was planning that, but as soon as he said it, I knew it was true. The list of 43 agents wasn't just documentation. It was preparation for something bigger. "So, what's the choice?" I asked. "Tell the world or stay quiet?" "Tell the world, and they'll think you're crazy. They'll discredit you, pull your credentials, maybe commit you for psychiatric evaluation. You'll lose everything you've built in the 3 years since you made your first choice. And if I stay quiet, then you carry the knowledge alone. You watch more agents see the marker. You witness more impossible choices, and you never tell anyone what you know. You die with the secret. There has to be a third option. There's always a third option, but you have to find it yourself. I can't tell you what it is because I don't know. I never reached this point. I chose differently than you did 3 years ago. I responded to that call. Everything after that moment is your timeline, not mine." I stared at him. "Then who are you? If you're not my future, who are you?" "I'm the version of you that made the wrong choice. I'm standing here from a collapsed timeline, from a future that never happened, offering you one last warning. Don't let the search for truth destroy the life you saved by making the smart choice." He started to fade, becoming transparent like the marker. "Wait," I said. "How do I know which choice is right?" But he was gone, and mile marker 237.5 was gone, and I was standing alone in the desert at mile marker 186, with the weight of another impossible choice pressing down on me. I pulled out my phone and looked at my list. 43 names, 43 stories, 43 people who'd seen what shouldn't exist and had to live with what they'd learned. Then I opened a new document and started typing. Not a report for the agency, not an article for the press, not evidence for the world, just this story. The truth about mile marker 237.5. written down so that when the next agent sees it, when the next person stands at that crossroads, they'll know they're not alone. They'll know that others have faced the same impossible choice. They'll know that whatever they decide, someone understands. Because maybe that's the third option. Not going public and losing everything. Not staying silent and carrying the burden alone. But sharing the story with the people who need to hear it. The people who will find themselves standing in the desert one night, staring at a mile marker that shouldn't exist. The people like me. I finished writing as the sun came up over the desert. The mile markers stood in their proper places, solid and ordinary in the morning light. 186, 187, 188. No 237.5. But it's out there, somewhere between the moments, between the choices, between what is and what could be. And someday, someone else will see it. When they do, they'll have to make their choice. I hope they choose wisely. I hope they choose to live. But more than that, I hope they know that whatever they choose, they're not alone in the impossible places where the desert shows you who you really are. Because we're all standing at crossroads. We're all choosing between timelines. We're all trying to figure out who we are when everything else is stripped away. And mile marker 237.5 is just the desert's way of making that choice visible. Of showing us the truth we already know, but don't want to admit. That every moment is a branch point. That every choice creates a new timeline. That survival and sacrifice are both valid answers to an impossible question. I drove home as the desert woke up around me. Sophia was probably awake by now, waiting for me to come home from my night shift. My wife would have breakfast ready. My normal life, saved by an abnormal choice, would continue for another day. And somewhere between mile markers 237 and 238, in a space that exists only for people standing at crossroads, mile marker 237.5 waited for its next visitor. I wonder who it will be. I wonder what choice they'll make. I wonder if they'll understand that there are no right answers, only living answers and dying answers. And I wonder if, like me, they'll spend the rest of their lives trying to figure out if they made the right choice. But at least they'll be alive to wonder. That has to count for something. It has to.